It has just gone 2 p.m. Central African time, and it has been exactly 5 days since we met here on Market View. But welcome back. It is Market View. We take the pulse of Eswatini's economy and bring you the insights that matter the most. This week, all eyes are on the 56th Eswatini International Trade Fair. It officially kicked off over the weekend with His Majesty the King presiding over the opening ceremony on Saturday. Now, the Mavuso Trade and Exhibition Center is alive with the energy of over 250 exhibitors and a staggering 500,000 visitors expected to pass through its doors. Now, with the projected 150 million emalangeni in trade opportunities on the table, the theme accelerating business growth through digital transformation, it isn't just a slogan. Now, it's a call to action for businesses across the kingdom. And today, we want to explore how this event is set to reshape the economic landscape of Eswatini. Sanele Sibia is going to join us virtually via Zoom, and I have a couple of questions to him, just to, give us an insight and ventilate these issues, how Eswatini is going to economically grow through this particular initiative. Welcome to Market View once again. It is the Tuesday edition. Let's look at our first business of the day, which is business news. Thank you for staying with us. Please do stay with us until the show is over. We're just getting started. About 100 small and medium enterprises have attended this year's trade fair. The domestic trade manager, Sipesihle Ngabinza, says small and medium enterprise holders have shown huge interest in the trade fair this year. Now, the Federation of Eswatini Business Community held the first edition of the Manzini Regional Executive Committee elections at SEDCO, where small and medium enterprises holders are nominating and voting for their preferred destination.
Very pleased with the turnout, basically, especially for the SMEs. We've seen their participation and we've tried to allocate them spaces accordingly. We also brought in a grand marquee, which we try to ensure that we give them that good picture in terms of space where they will exhibit. So I think they have occupied all the spaces that we've made available for them. Before the trade fair, we introduced the app to apply for spaces at the trade fair. And we were surprised that the SMEs were the ones who took the leap first in front of all the business people, the big companies, if I may say. They did make applications early. They were invoiced and they made payments as early as they could. And we are very pleased as the trade fair seeing that leap being taken by the smaller businesses in terms of interest to participate in the trade fair. I will say we've got about 80 to 100 small-scale exhibitors at the trade fair.
Some owners of small and medium enterprises say they have made good profits since trade fair started on Friday. Now, the SME holders interviewed say they will be able to reinvest in their businesses.
Kusahambeka kahle kuzama nje, although kuhle kuba khona ama-hiccups ukuthi bantu abasile abada kakhulu sengoba kukhuthatana nje ukuthi eMaswati sicela kusathi uvakashele nato leti ndzawo letincane tekudla. Angisho ukuthi bangayi kuleti tolo letinkulu kodwa nato leti ngoba nje nawubuka inqumbi yaleti tolo leti la eMaswati.
Sifike nakuqala ishow mhla ka-30. So far so good. Ngisikhale kangako, yes, kukhona leti nkinga lapha nalapha, but vele ebhizinisini kuba njalo. Siyabonga kakhulu nje nokuba se-trade fair ukuthi basiniketele ithuba. Hawu, siyazama impela kuphose kakhudlwana nje.
Solo siqalile kusebenza siyasebenta, kuyasebenteka. Nebantu bayeta bayavakasha, bayasupporta.
This is our first time attending a trade fair, and we didn't know what to expect, but we are very optimistic. So far, we have had a good clientele. Siyakhona kuthola ema customers, and they actually want more.
All right, that's it for our business news segment. We go for a net break. Sanele Sibia, our residential economist, joins us virtually after the break to ventilate some of the issues around the trade fair and how it is going to boost our economy.
Do you pay your TV license and are up to date with your payments? If not, here is your chance. If you own a TV set, a decoder, or a set-top box, and you voluntarily declare, the TV license fees will not be backdated, and you will only be required to pay for the 2024 TV license fee. On top of that, you will also avoid paying the 50% penalty fee. This offer is valid until the 30th of September 2024. However, if you pay before the last day of this year's trade fair, you stand a chance to win awesome prizes. The draw will be conducted on the last day of the trade fair, the 8th of September 2024. Take advantage of this leniency period. It's not too late to make the right choice. Pay your TV license and be a compliant citizen. Pay your TV license through any of these TV license pay points, MTN Mobile Money, Eswatini Mobile Imali, Eswatini Post Office, and our NetBank account. When you make payment for your TV license, always remember to reference with your personal identity number.
Six minutes after 2. Thank you for staying with us. You're still watching Market View. This is the Tuesday edition. Let's get into our interview segment now. Sanele Sibia, a very, very pleasure to have him residing right now once again as our resident economist who needs no introduction when it comes to the breaking down the economic trends that define our nation. This week, the Eswatini International Trade Fair is in full swing, having been officially opened by His Majesty the King on Saturday. Now, this is more than just an annual event. It's a critical engine for economic growth and a platform for local and international businesses to connect. Sanele, thank you for joining us to dissect the impact of this year's trade fair. And good afternoon to you. I suppose the first question is the economic impact, Sanele. Let's jump right into that. The trade fair expected to generate 150 million in Emalangeni in trade opportunities. Now, from your vantage point, how does this influx of economic activity ripple through the broader economy of Eswatini, and what sectors stand to benefit the most?
Good afternoon, Mr. Numalo, and good afternoon to the viewer. So one of the reasons, countries would host trade fairs is basically to open up the space and allow businesses to come and showcase their products and, try and come and network and try to find new niche markets with which to actually cover. It becomes, in my view, one of those easiest marketing techniques where, you have people conglomerating around, and over and above, you have other businesses with which you could share insights with. So yes, you can never discount the economic impact that does come with the trade fair in terms of, trading opportunities, like new business opportunities, and over and above the new business opportunities we are going to see, from the networking. Most likely you're going to see some sort of alliances being formed. You are going to see, maybe access to better supply chains and better value chains, and it does give access for domestic companies to international, potential international allies and potential, opening up the space to international allies. So that's how we are seeing that. So the businessman on the streets stands to benefit through all those creation of those allies and the creation of, new supply chains in making sure that, businesses get to improve their margins. So that's the lines we need to look into. And, as always, we do expect the tech sector to be leading the chart. And also you do expect, the services sector to continue sustaining because it still remains the bedrock of the economy. And then you're going to see other sectors like agriculture also coming to trickle in and see what benefits remain in the markets, though the spectrum is open for everyone, Mr. Nima.
In underscoring its importance in the economic growth of the country, I think from the outside looking in, really, as a layman, someone that is not an economist, that doesn't have the vantage point of view like you, I look at 150 Emalangeni in trade opportunities as something that may sound too ambitious. Is it too ambitious, or it's right on the mark?
I would think conservatively, I would put it right about that figure, Mr. Numalo, considering if you look at the amount of what's it called? The amount of velocity of money that actually happens there. You have quite a number of patrons, revelers coming into the space, and just opening up to a lot of trading opportunities therein. And then also there's the registrations. There's quite a number of expositions that are happening there that do draw the crowd, and it's for the business persons to then come in and try to attract that crowd, the ones it's been drawn. So I think for me, ideally, I would think that's right about a conservative figure that one would put. Also considering the fact that, we have APA and, we've seen them really together with these matches. They've been out in the ground and really trying to get businesses to come abroad, to come into Eswatini. And also, besides that, we've seen APA in the Dubai Expo and quite a number of expos that they've attended. I'm sure in those expos, they've been able to get other companies to come into the country, not just to showcase their products and make sure that we do produce these global supply chains, maybe probably even get to global value chains that are going to be domestically brewed, Mr. Nxumalo. And I think, yes, conservatively, I would put it there, given the amount of marketing that has gone into the trade fair and, the work that His Majesty's government has been doing across the spectrum, really, including the work that His Majesty has been doing, that of putting a foot on the ground and really selling Eswatini as an investment destination, Mr. Nxumalo. So it is quite possible.
Hey, look, Sanele, 150 million Malangeni in trade opportunities. To me, as Sifiso, is not just staggering, but it is very, very charming as well. And it makes me wonder if we are leveraging enough of such an opportunity if we're going to have the trade fair once a year. Do we not want to have it at least twice a year and maybe double that to 300 million Malangeni in trade opportunities? But maybe I'm just speaking from a layman's perspective. We need the other time to, actually put foot on the ground and then make that money, because it's just opportunities there. Second question is on digital transformation. You did speak about, the tech companies obviously leading the race there. The theme this year is about accelerating business growth through digital transformation. Now, in your view, how transformative is this focus on digitization, particularly with the introduction of tools like the Eswatini International Trade Fair? What is it called again? The Eswatini International Trade Fair app and the new e-commerce platform by Eswatini.com. Are we on the cusp of a new digital era in Eswatini?
I would say it's one of those things that we've come to understand as a country, that we are actually in the verge of, the fourth revolution, the AI industrial revolution. That's where the money is. That's where we've actually seen slogans like data is the new gold. So whether we want to or not as a country, if we are to stay relevant, we really do have to digitize the economy. And I mean, if you really do take time to look into the economy as well, as it were, you will find that there exist quite a number of digital platforms, like, quite a number of those e-commerce hubs that we are seeing there. And also what we're seeing as well is government taking charge to make sure that it does put the right infrastructure from e-government to quite a number of things, because what you then need is for the consumer and the producer mindset to transform to that level where we are actually aligning with digitalization, making sure that the market stays relatively calm and relatively the same. I mean, we've looked, I think just last week we were discussing issues around the central bank and their efforts to digitalize and bring the management of the monetary policy into that space. So I think, we are actually well on track as a country, but one would caution that we do need to move a bit faster than we are. That's the one thing that I would really caution on. We do need to move faster. And yes, we've seen even the elections, we are seeing that level of digitalization and that level of adoption, more especially through quite a number of these state-owned enterprises. And we're seeing the government also really just try and come on board. And we've seen quite a number of companies moving in the space of Bitcoin, alternative payment methods, your Samsung Pay, your PayPal type of payment. So we are actually moving. We might not be moving as fast as one would have seen in other countries. Also, we look at the advent and the rise of mobile money. I think we are well on course, Mr. Nxumalo. Let me leave it there for now.
Well, I hope we are right on course there. Global and local business interactions is another hot topic there when it comes to Eswatini International Trade Fair. And I suppose very, very appealing as well. Such a significant international presence at the trade fair, Sanel. How do events like this enhance rather Eswatini's standing on the global stage, and what long-term benefits can local businesses then expect from engaging with this kind of international exposure?
So when we look at events like the international trade firms, the Ngumalo, we also do look at it, and we've seen, if you study it across the years, you will see that one of the outcomes from the trade fair is actually that of networking and forming those alliances. So that's the first step. If local companies are able to form those networks and form those alliances, they could probably become domestic suppliers of those international commodities, and would form those alliances around that. So it does present quite a big opportunity for domestic producers, and also it does expose domestic companies to probably better input markets and better supply chains. But in terms of Eswatini standing, the caliber of companies that are there really does show that we've had a lot of work around APA and also around the travels of His Majesty, doing that economic diplomacy there. It does show that the world is now alive to the fact that there exists a country called Eswatini, and that country has a lot of potential through requiring that they do invest their funds to come into the Eswatini trade fair show, because you do know that it's a costly endeavor. It's not just a matter of going up and setting up a stall. You need to book flights, book hotels, do quite a number of things. So to have that level of international presence really does show that Eswatini has promise, and that Eswatini is actually open for business, and we need to take that opportunity, and we need to make sure that we are able to run with the momentum. Let us not then take it a bit slightly. We need to make sure that we are able to run with the momentum, make sure that we are growing where we have to grow, and making sure that we learn where we have to learn. And that is why this policy environment becomes very critical, where we have a clear package that we are selling to our investors, and then we do, we utilize those state-owned enterprises to try and create those linkages between the foreign entities and the domestic entities, so that we are able to maintain the momentum. And I do hope that, entities like your APA, they are standing ready. They're already doing that on the ground, ensuring that we are actually moving in line with the investor policy that they tabled just a few days ago. So I think it's such policies that we need to mold and make sure that we are implementing. They become vehicles for that international pollination of ideas, and accessing new supply chains, new value chains, new input markets, and improving our competitive edge as a country, Mr. Nima.
The emergence of short-term business opportunities with events like this is, for me personally, something that I really, really like. And, I was reading an article that was speaking on the World Cup, and that was in the Saudi, by the way. Those short-term opportunities, the ripple effect can be long-term, because people then realize that they want to come back. And you are speaking on, these people from the international front coming into Eswatini. We don't know what they will fall in love with, and this time around it coincided with Umhlanga dance and the Swazi rally. Perhaps some of the things that they saw there that made them say, what, I want to come back here, and I fell in love with Eswatini. But perhaps as a parting question, I'm looking at our time. I want us to speak on sustainability and future growth. As we look to the future, what do you believe is the key to ensuring that the momentum that is generated by the trade fair, it continues to drive sustainable growth in our economy? And what should businesses and policymakers then focus on to capitalize on the opportunities presented this week?
I think for me, it's an issue of really streamlining our policy environment as a country. We need to be able to actually follow through on the promises that we make. At this point, I do expect to see APA really putting their feet on the ground and running around in lines with the investor policy that we tabled just a few days ago. I think at this point, we do need to find ways of channeling the domestic companies towards the international companies, and creating and negotiating win-win solutions. So that would be the first stage for me. And when you're selling this domestic company, also make sure that they are aware of the potential packages that they may sell to an international company. Like, for example, we do expect entities like your FESBIC and the Chamber of Commerce to actually capacitate domestic companies on what trade packages do exist and what they could actually exploit when you're going out there to sell your product. So that long-term growth that you're talking about requires that working together between policymakers and also industry to really try and bridge the gap in knowledge between the producer and actually the international companies, and really defining why companies should come to Eswatini. And in certain instances, companies do not have to come to Eswatini. They need to actually just subcontract certain production components to Eswatini, thereby making that a bit sustainable. I do believe if it is homegrown, it is going to be sustainable, Mr. Nino.
Sanele, as always, your insights very, very, very invaluable, especially because they always coincide with what is happening currently and just helping us inform our minds as these developments are unfolding. Thank you so much for this particular discussion. You're not going anywhere. You will connect with us after the break once again to decode the indices of today. What are the markets looking like today? Sanele Sibia is going to help us decode rather those numbers today.
Eswatini TV will be at the International Trade Fair 2024, bringing you exciting opportunities to connect with a wider audience and boost your brand visibility. ESTVA is offering incredible specials that include 5-minute on-location interviews, engaging viewers directly, spot advertisements, 30 seconds congratulatory messages, and much more. Do not miss out on this chance to increase brand awareness, generate lead and sales. Our details are displayed on the screen.
Minutes after 2, Sanele, maybe today, let me just put the onus on you and perhaps just give you some, I don't know, some sort of position in my show today. Would you start wherever you want to start in terms of, what is attractive today when it comes to indices?
Thank you, Mr. Ngumalo, and thank you for giving me your encouraged position just for a few minutes. So what we are seeing in markets today, Mr. Ngumalo, is the fact that, if you go into the US, the numbers we're presenting there are still last week's numbers, because the US markets haven't opened yet, because yesterday it was Labor Day, so we're just waiting to see how the numbers are going to pan out in the US. But if you look at the futures, you will see that they are still a bit on the low. But what was happening last week Friday is, remember, we see the data turning around, really presenting a strong case for a rebound in terms of what is going to happen to the interest rates. But we do expect those numbers to come into the red when we do open, I think in a few hours' time in the US. But when you now look into London, you will see that London, Frankfurt, and Paris, they're all just really, they've lost a bit of ground there. And that is largely due to the fact that we're expecting quite a broad range of economic data to come out from the US today. And not today, this week. We're expecting the manufacturing index data to come out on Wednesday, and then I think on Friday it's going to be the farm data, the farmers payroll data, and quite a number of labor market data that's going to be coming out this week. So what that data is going to signal to the markets is how big an interest rate cut, if any, we are going to have. So in the US, so markets are priced for an interest rate cut, but right now we're just dilly-dallying around the fact that we don't know how much of an interest rate cut to expect this week. So that is what is weighing heavily on the European markets, just to see what the move will be in the US and how much that is likely going to affect the markets. And then you move to into Asia. Again, we're seeing the effects of those, you can see that all Asian markets all closed on the red today, largely due to because the fact that we are waiting for market data to come in from the US. And already what we are seeing in Japan, in China, is the fact that there continues to be a decline in terms of the demand coming out from the US market, from the Chinese market, purely because there still exists that housing market bubble. And then there also exists, we've seen growth numbers coming out from China last week. They were really not that impressive. So that's why we're seeing the markets trying to balance the figures of the US data and also balancing domestic conditions within mainland China. Then the Japanese story is, we can say Tokyo basically just trying to rebound and trying to see what is going to happen in the US in the coming week, determining the monetary policy path for the United States of America. When we get to South Africa, what we are seeing there is, the Johannesburg Stock Exchange still remains relatively high on that 82,000 mark, but still we are waiting to see those numbers coming out from the US. But we are aware of the fact that domestic conditions are really coming closer to that 4.6 mark in the South African market. That 4.5 mark, which is the median point of inflation through which the Reserve Bank of South Africa would be actually able and would be more comfortable in cutting interest rates. So we are actually bracing for interest rates this month, but what the numbers are signaling right now is how far or how big will the interest rate cut be in the US, and that's weighing down on the markets today. And considering that yesterday was a holiday in the US, so markets are still a bit uneasy. They've not seen how the data, how US markets react to that data. And then domestically, Mr. Nxumalo, we are still at that very same point at 491, but we do expect that as the monetary policy considerations start easing and people do get a bit of money, there is an opportunity to invest in the Eswatini Stock Exchange. And over and above, we do expect that when we return to earnings season, we shall begin to see that change, Mr. Nxumalo.
Yeah, Sanele, thank you so much for that overview. And I'm wondering, what I'm picking up from everything that you just said to me, perhaps before we get into currencies and commodities, given the current risk of sentiment in global markets and maybe the shift towards safe haven assets like the Japanese yen, how do you foresee this trend impacting emerging markets like Eswatini, of course, especially in terms of foreign investment and currency stability?
What we are seeing there is, there is the shift towards safe haven investments, and that's what gold has actually been quite benefiting off of the back of. But what markets really would look into is the stability within that economy. And I think when you look at our currency exchange rate, we can see that it's been benefiting from that because there is a bit of that stability coming out from the South African markets. But most likely, what the markets that are going to be benefiting a lot, we are going to see the Indian markets continue to rally, and we've seen their growth numbers being revised upwards. And then probably once the Japanese have figured out and found a way to stabilize the yen, then that's where we're going to see, most likely going to see the money go, because we know with Africa there is a lot of political instability, but with the basic stability that we are seeing in South Africa, you can see the way the currency is performing, that shows that it is actually somewhat improving. And what you're going to see happening most likely is the exporters are going to benefit because they are least affected by exchange rate fluctuations, unlike when you're a net importing nation.
Yeah, absolutely. And I love the fact that you did touch on the situation of gold there today, because one of my worries was that we're running out of time and perhaps we're not going to have an insight when it comes to gold. I'm afraid we have come to the end of our show, Sanele, but thank you so much for your insights. Very invaluable, again, in helping us understand the economic currents shaping Eswatini and the whole globe, really, but really worried about how the geopolitical tensions continue to impact markets of the day till today. And it's not looking optimistic at all, at least for me. And I just wonder what we need to do. Do we have to pray suddenly? What do we have to do as an economist?
This one is basically just market fears are waiting to see. So I do believe that as the numbers start coming in, showing the fact that the US market is performing better than expected and
Yeah.
opening up that scope for the Federal Reserve Bank to cut the interest rates, then we're going to see the momentum return to Wall Street, and that's going to trickle across the globe, Mr. Ngumalo. So I would believe it's going to be a very good week ahead.
All right, that was Sanele Sibia, our residential economist. We started by looking at the impact of the Eswatini International Trade Fair by highlighting the immense potential that it holds for our economy. We also looked at the indices of today in terms of the market today here at home as well as globally. That is the end of Market View, the Tuesday edition. Do join us tomorrow for Nedbank Business Watch as well as our other programs, but do start at Gusile Breakfast Show in the morning. Enjoy the rest of your afternoon. Bye-bye.